welcome to the first episode of the Sports Saga podcast. Great to have you here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe for a weekly episode. Brady Kudo, along with Keegan Hamlet, and our first guest. Thrilled to have him on. CBS Sports college basketball analyst, former Villanova point guard, Chris Walker. Chris, welcome. Thanks for being here. And most importantly, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. The first, man. I feel honored, man.
Oh, well, could not think of anyone better. At least someone who's, you've helped me a lot, and I do appreciate it. Coming off a great game yesterday, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. We're going to go from Big 12 into Big East today. So, but before we get to that, we're going to start with you. So give us a brief summary of the life and career of Chris Walker.
Listen, that's only going to take 5 minutes, so you better have your questions ready to go after that.
No, we got questions.
No, I'm from Houston originally. People always ask me, "Hey, you went to Villanova? You're from Houston?" Yeah, so a little bit different. Just a little backstory. I don't know if you guys are baseball fans, but I was recruited at a fairly high level. Chose between Georgetown, USC. I like George Raveling back then. Clem Haskins was a head coach at Minnesota. So I thought I wanted to play for a Black coach back then. That was my mindset. And then out of nowhere, Villanova beats Georgetown years before that. And I cried because I was such a Georgetown fan. And the next, lo and behold, Steve Lapis comes to Houston and recruits me. And things had turned by that time. So I actually didn't want to go play for Notre Dame because I loved a guy named David Rivers way before you guys' time. And Digger Phelps was the head coach. But by arrival, I was the best player. I was the second, probably the runner-up for Mr. Basketball. The guy that was the better player than me, had the better reputation, went on a visit to Notre Dame the week before. He ended up committed to Notre Dame. So then that left me, not necessarily left me with Villanova, but I had to choose. Because again, David Rivers was my hero back then. But the other hero was Pearl Washington. So going to play in the Big East was a big deal. Now, the way I got there, Villanova had a guy named Delano DeShields that was committed. Okay. Delano DeShields decided to go play baseball in the spring. So he was signed to Villanova, ended up going to baseball, and that's what opened a scholarship for me to go to Villanova. Nope. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's a little crazy thing, the way I got to Nova. Nevertheless, got there and was, had a great time, played for the great Rollie Massimino, who should be in the Naismith Hall of Fame, which I'm, still shocked that he's not, pulling off the greatest upset in my mind in NCAA history in '85 over Pat Ewing in Georgetown in Lexington, Kentucky. And, had learned a lot from him, and ended up becoming a coach. Had a decent career in the Big East, ended up becoming a coach. Loyola Marymount was my first job right after they had the system with Hank and Bo. Then had an opportunity to work for one of the guys who I think still is the smartest guy in the world when it comes to basketball. His name is Jan Van Bredikoff. His dad was Butch Van Bredikoff, who coached Will Chamberlain in the Lakers back in the day. So worked for him, had a chance to work for a guy named Steve Alford. I'm sure you guys know who he is. At New Mexico, had great success. He was at UCLA. Then also worked for a guy named Billy Gillespie, who was the head coach at Texas Tech and at Kentucky and A&M. Very good defensive-minded coach. And who else I work for? Because I work for a lot of guys. And I work for Steve Lapis. So, and Jay Wright. And I work for Jay Wright at Villanova as well, who as corporate as they come, running the Fortune 500 company. So had a lot of great people that influenced me. And so that kind of marks my career. And I had the chance to be the head coach at Texas Tech myself. And then I was replaced by Tubby Smith. And he did a fabulous job. And you see what Texas Tech, I like to say that I was a part of what Texas Tech has now, starting off of me taking over for that year, helping them open the door for Tubby. Tubby opens the door for Beard. Beard opens the door for what happened with Mark Adams. So that was a long process of success, what's happening now. And now, then I went to work for, so in between that, I'm skipping something. I used to work for Under Armour and I used to work for Adidas. So I worked for Adidas first. I used to do grassroots basketball. I was a Southwest grassroots, representative for Adidas. And then I worked in sports. I was a brand ambassador for Under Armour. So during those times when I was in coaching, because I took a couple breaks, I worked for CBS. That's how I got into television. So this is I want to say my 6th or 7th year at CBS. So and then I went back to Berkeley after 5 years. I went back to Berkeley. My buddy White King Jones became the head coach, who I coached at Loyola Marymount. He became the head coach at Cal Berkeley. Went back to work at Berkeley for 2 years, and then after that, now I'm back in television again. So I'm skipping around a little bit, but so it's been marked by start off being a basketball player, turn into a coach, from a coach to a broadcaster. Thought I had an itch to go back in. Now I'm going to sit this broadcaster chair. I guess there's a lot. Trust me, this seat is a lot more comfortable in what's going on out there on that court for sure. But anyway, that was a long and short of Chris Walker. But
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You're very good at what you do. You know that I think the Under Armour, that must have been a
There
sign
you
of
go.
some sort.
There you go.
All right.
You wait,
So
baby.
obviously you're deep in the Big East. You know, obviously played at Villanova, coach there. So let's go right into this. Keegan, I will start with you. Your pick for Big East Player of the Year.
There's a lot of guys to choose from. I mean, we were talking before, like Xavier, you were talking about scrubs, and I was telling you I like Fremantle better as the big guy, but you just look around, there's so many talented players. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a tie-up. Like obviously we're the fans of the Friars. I don't see maybe Watson, my guy AJ Reeves, but you just look around and
Keegan doesn't want to make a decision, man.
No, it's tough. I was looking at this yesterday, and I'm like, Gillespie, Champagny.
Yeah, I was talking to you with that. I like Gillespie too. Like, if you had to pick just the Big East, you said just the Big East.
Just the Big East.
Then that's probably Gillespie.
All right.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, this year. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh, good. No, I was going to say I was going to lead you into that. Good.
Yeah. So again, Gillespie won it last year. He was a co-Big East Player of the Year. So them not winning the league, I'm a Villanova guy through and through. I put my V's up all the time. But them not winning the championship, I think probably hurts that for them. Like if Villanova had tied for the championship, I think Gillespie would have won it again. I think them not it and Providence back, and I can't believe he didn't, say Providence won the championship ever in Big East history. But them not winning the championship, I think opens the door for them to choose someone else. So, Champagny may be a favorite. Justin Lewis, I don't think anyone has the numbers at Providence to be the Player of the Year.
Wow.
But you can choose Watson. I mean, it's a tough one to pick as far as Providence having the Player of the Year. But I don't think Champagny and Lewis. I think those are two guys that have as individuals. I mean, I like Xavier guys, but they've lost like 7 of the last 8 games. I mean, no one's going to pick. So no one's getting anybody from that team right now. They're limping into the tournament right now. So I'm going to say Lewis or Champagny, or Gillespie being my third for sure.
Yeah, I was at Xavier now 7-9 in conference play.
Yeah.
I was there last night. Creighton now they've won 6 of the last 7. Excuse me. They were on a roll, but I'm with you. I picked Champagny. It was down to Champagny and Lewis for me, but I went with Champagny. I mean, yeah, he's the leading scorer in the Big East, but him and Posh Alexander is one of my favorite players in the Big East. He's so underrated. I really, really like his style. I like that Champagny is able to get it done at both ends of the floor. I mean, he leads the league in scoring. He's the only guard that's top 10 in blocks, and he's second in steals. So I look at someone who, can get it done on both ends of the floor. I think Champagny thoroughly deserves. He's been, St. John's, I struggle a little bit. I mean, they've had their highs and they've had their lows, right? But I think Champagny, I would give it to Champagny over Lewis, and then obviously Gillespie's in there as well. But I think this next one is unanimous. We're going to go to Coach of the Year. Chris, tell me what I want to hear.
Oh, yeah. Come on now. Now, what do you mean? You got to be unbiased, man. Look at Keaton's background over there. He's killing me right now. Hey, stuff, some New York stuff. We got this is crazy right here. I mean, without question, is Ed Cooley, man. Ed Cooley is a friend. He's got a great personality. It's long overdue. I mean, I didn't realize. So think about it. I've been a part of the Big East since 1988. before I probably predated you guys being alive. So I've been part of the Big East that long. I did not know that Providence had never won the Big East. So I work on my colleague is Pete Gillen, who's the head coach there. Known Rick Pitino forever. No, not known him, but yeah, known Rick Pitino forever. He was there, Final Four. Dave Gavitt. I mean, I never, and Rick Barnes as well. I coached, I mean, when I played, Rick Barnes was a coach. So, Providence teams, they've never won a Big East. I mean, that's amazing that they've never won a Big East. So that alone lets you know that, and people always talks about Providence. They're like, man, Providence should just be happy with this. And Providence should just be happy with that. I'm like, Providence is a proud program with a lot of tradition. So this is something to be celebrated. And Ed Cooley being a hometown kid to bring that championship home is something they should be happy about. And I call it a transfer portal championship now, just so you know.
No, that's
because
yeah, no, I agree. And even like I was even
watching the Horkler, I mean, that changed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't come back, it's a whole different world, you know.
Which is funny. Like I mean, I still think Watson's their best player. He's been there since day one. Where I mean, everybody else, Durham came from Indiana, Mania, South Carolina, Horkler came from little North Florida, and you know he ended up being great. But what I think, I mean, again, Ed Cooley is I don't think he's not the Big East Coach of the Year. I'm willing to say he's the Naismith Coach of the Year. I think just because this is very long overdue. I mean, you can make the argument. I think Jeff Linder from Wyoming, Calipari, Colorado State. Colorado State was ranked at one time of the year.
Tommy Lloyd from Arizona.
Tommy Lloyd, first-year head coach. I mean, granted, they did lose last night, but still number 2 in the country. Nobody expected them to be that good. But I mean, Ed Cooley, a hometown kid, and even we were at me and my dad went to the game last night, and my dad said, "Is it the Maryland job open?" I said, "Yeah, it is." I said, "It looks like it's going to be open." He's like, "You think he's going to accept it?" I said, "No, he's not." Because I've made this argument for a very long time. And Keegan will tell you the same thing. I think Ed Cooley, he's a lifer. If he wanted to leave, he would have taken Michigan.
Yeah, you see the energy that he has during the game in the locker room. You know what it means to him. They had a post on Instagram. He said this was a special group with like him and the group of players that he was coaching with. And just the turnaround that they've had from last year to this year, from 500 last year to winning the Big East this year. Chris was absolutely right with like runaway Big East Coach of the Year. And you were right too, Brady, about being a contender for National Coach of the Year too. Because at one point they were ranked number 8 in the country. And this was from a team that was 500, didn't even make March Madness last year. And now you're contending to be a top team in your region for March Madness.
They lost to DePaul in the first round of the Big East the Big East tournament last year. And again, just for them to come back and this resurgence is just, it really is second to none. The Big East Sixth Man of the Year, our final category. I'm going to start this one. I have to give it to Jared Bynum. And that's my unbiased. I swear on that. That is my unbiased. It is Jared Bynum. He leads the conference at 3-point percentage, 46% from beyond the arc. He's had 12 games in double figures. And again, another guy that he went through like a renaissance, because Jared Bynum last year was looked at, it was like, oh, Bynum, yeah, he's all right. But now we look at him at like, we really, really like him, and he's going to be taking on an even bigger role next year. Most likely he will be in the starting lineup.
Right.
His best game came against Georgetown. He had 32 off the bench. Granted, Georgetown has yet to win a conference game, which is actually surprising because I thought even last year they made that Cinderella run, won the Big East tournament. They had Aminu Muhammad come in. We thought, oh, they might be. No, I was very, very surprised. But 32 off the bench, that doesn't happen, right? Like 12 games in double figures, that just doesn't happen. I think he's a staunch defender. Him and Watson, we saw this beautifully last night. They have this little thing where Watson, he'll set a high ball screen and he'll roll. They do this like cute little dribble drive thing where like Bynum looks and then he'll go up or he'll give it to Watson. And it's so tough for people to defend that.
Right.
Because they don't know what to defend. So I think just this different dynamic he brings to the game, and again, leading the conference at 3-point shooting, my mind, he's Big East Sixth Man of the Year. Keegan?
I mean, you know what? Like I said, to the victor of the spoils, there's a few guys that could be named, but I have no issue with Bynum being Sixth Man of the Year. Somebody has to contribute and come in, because every time, Reeves doesn't always play well all the time. Durham doesn't always play well. So you're going to have someone else come in and shoulder the load. And again, you don't win a championship or win. They've won not last night, but they've won three straight overtime games before that. Somebody is making big plays, particularly in the era of the guards being in control. Like it used to be when I was a player, you throw it inside to the big, work inside out. The game is outside in now.
Right.
And so you got to have guards. You got to have a bevy of guards because everybody don't always play well every night, and guys don't always shoot well every night. So if you have enough of them, you got to have enough bullets in the gun. Doesn't matter what kind of gun you have if you don't have enough bullets. And he provides a lift and a power punch off the bench for them that makes them even more lethal. You can't do it with just five guys. You know what I mean? You really cannot do it with five guys. The only team that's ever been able to do it that way is Duke, where they can just play five guys and it doesn't matter. St. Bonaventure played five guys last year, still played five guys. But him coming off the bench, providing the spark is huge.
Keegan?
Yeah, I'm with both of you on this. It's shared Bynum. You guys were just talking about it. When you're looking at the voting for Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, whatever it may be, they like winning. And you said Brady, Bynum had 32 off the bench in one game.
Yes.
You got to take into account this is college where you're scoring 70 or 80 a game. Even in the NBA, when they're getting almost 110, 120 a game, you rarely see that. And you were talking about winning. How about clutchness? Like you come into the game, somebody's in foul trouble, somebody's maybe has like exhaustion, they're not playing up to their full potential. You bring him in off the bench and he's able to produce when he comes onto the court in the big moments.
I thought Keegan was going to start doing points per possession over there because I'm a big analytics guy. When he started saying 30, I thought you were about to roll it out right there for a second when you said 32 points out of a hump. Like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, beyond the box score, we're going.
I thought he was going, beyond the box score. I thought he was going possession, rebound rate for 4 factors. I didn't know where he was going with that. And I was like, I'm with you on that. But no, again, guys, as Keegan mentioned, it's very difficult to score 30 points in a college game. And you're coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Obviously with threes, that helps. But, the game I did yesterday, Emoji Gibson, he had 8 threes in the game to score 30 against Texas. So, I mean, it's just, I want to say Texas or Texas Tech. They had 8 threes in the game. I mean, it's unfathomable to us. But in today's game, in today's game and beyond, that's going to be the norm moving forward because guys shoot threes. I mean, not that it's easy to shoot threes. They're guarded more than they were guarded back in the day, but kids shoot threes like it's nothing. It's actually easier to shoot a three than it is to shoot a layup or a contested layup in the paint.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's what, it's what everybody's used to is just feed it in, the big guy, whatever. But now
like
we see it, at least, with guys like Watson and Jack Nungy, they swarm the paint. And then you kick it back out. Bynum, another transfer, by the way, came up from St. Joe's from the A10.
That's right.
And Cooley.
Transfer portal changed the game, guys.
Yeah.
Transfer portal changed the game. It's completely changed, And what I mentioned earlier about the transfer portal, it did help, obviously, with Justin Minaya, Omar Minaya, his dad, a good friend of mine. And then, obviously, you mentioned, but don't forget about, was it Carswell? No, how do you pronounce his last name? The big, Croswell, who came from LaSalle.
Yeah.
So they got yes. That portal, along with the NCAA giving them an extra year. And I talked to Ed Cooley about this because I did a Providence game. That's why I met you, Brady. And he's like, those guys just came back. There was no discussion. The fusing of those two things, or the coming together, those two change Providence basketball. And it just sometimes in basketball, man, you got to have that one signature year. You can't worry about what's happened before, and you can't worry about the future. This is the year. And I know Ed's only won one NCAA tournament game in like 5 or 6 years. So fans are at a higher level. There's a fever pitch level.
Yeah.
So nothing less than a Sweet 16 and a Final 8. If that doesn't happen, they're going to go crazy. You know how Providence fans are. And I've told people this time and time again. when I played in college, I played against Eric Murdoch. That was my era. Carlton Scream, those guys, right? And when I forget, I want to say Marquise Barnes. I can't remember his last name. Marquise Barnes, I want to say. But my point is, that was the toughest place to play, even when I played, what I call the real Big East, the super crazy Big East.
Yeah.
That was the toughest place to play. And even now, Providence, I think, is still the most raucous place to play in the Big East. I believe that. It was Providence Civic Center. Now it's the Dunkin' Donuts. Very difficult place to play.
I think you had said, I saw this on social media. I think you had said it actually. I don't know if it was the my goodness, the St. Bonaventure game you just did, but your partner had asked you what makes
Beverages.
toughest place to play. I was just gonna say, what is it? Beverages, yeah.
Beverages. They serve alcohol to students. Like, I've never seen that in my life. Like, I've never seen a place where you can pan the crowd and the student has a Bud Light. I'm like, what the? But that, I'm telling you, it is the toughest place to play. I mean, I wouldn't say America, but it's close.
Yeah,
it's close.
I still think, and this is just from my watching, I still think it's Duke. I think it goes Duke, then Providence. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I know even we've seen it in recent years. Loyola Chicago has this great fan base. I mean, Duke, they've been there for years. North Carolina, we could go on, but I still think nothing will ever beat the Camera Crazies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But moving into that and looking at, we looked at Jerry Palm's latest bracketology. Selection Sunday is 2 weeks away. In 14 days, the selection committee will announce their field of 68. Keegan Hamlet, give me your final four, or early final four predictions, I should say.
I have Gonzaga, Kansas, Purdue, and Baylor. I was going to put Auburn on there, but like I usually go with the experience, like teams who have been there before, have made deep runs before, and I just don't see it happening for Auburn this year. Again, nice regular season, but that doesn't always translate to the playoffs and the tournament.
Chris?
Good. Wow, I'm in. It's interesting. Yeah. Keegan threw me for a loop when he said Kansas. I don't think Kansas is very good, but for to make a deep run, I don't think they have the star power to do that.
I didn't put Kansas. I mean, I like Abaji, but I didn't put Kansas in mine.
Yeah, I like Abaji, but yeah, but I'm going to go Arizona. I think Arizona has a fair chance to make it. I'm going to go Purdue because I like teams that score. Because the NCAA tournament is about rock fights, and you got to have guys that can bust through the rock fight. I'm going to go with an outlier in the Big 12. I'm going to go with Texas Tech because they're experienced. They got a lot of older guys, and they defend, and it's hard to score them. So if they get in the right bracket, I think they could make a run. And lastly, there's got to be a team that no one expects to do anything, but they're experienced, and I'm going to go with Providence.
Wow. Okay.
Got to pick, because there's going to be a team, that makes it. And so the question is, what is the makeup of that team? Do they have experience? Can they win close games? Do they have good coaching? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And can they make shots? Do they have shooters? And so do they have an inside-outside presence? And when you look at Providence, as presently constructed, they have as good a chance as anybody. So that will be my four teams that I think that has a chance to make the Final Four.
I did put Duke. I mean, I looked at Jerry Palm's latest bracket. I did
Duke.
They're good at everything. As for me, again, they have the inside presence with Williams, and I think Banchero is a monster. And then they have shooting as well on the outside. I did put Auburn, Keegan, because again, Walker Kessler, again, another inside-outside presence. Jabari Smith.
No, I give you the points for putting Auburn.
Jabari Smith likely to be the first overall pick in the NBA draft. I did put Kentucky. Kentucky has a lot more experience than many people think, and it's John Calipari. Yes. I mean, one of the best coaches of our generation, and generation before, when he was at UMass or whatever. And I'm with you, Chris. I put Arizona. I like everything about Arizona. I think that wasn't the team that was expected to do much. But I didn't put Providence because I saw that Jerry Palm had put Providence in the same bracket as Kentucky. And I looked at Providence, Kentucky. I'm like, oh, my heart says Providence, but my brain is saying Kentucky. Oscar Tshiebwe is my favorite player to watch. personally. I enjoy watching Oscar Tshiebwe play. The guy averages the same amount of points and rebounds, 16 and 16. So I'm looking, all right, who can stop Oscar Tshiebwe? I don't think anybody can, at least on that Providence team, and especially on that Kansas team.
Right.
So I did put Kentucky. But again, this just, really, really early. 2 weeks from now, we have March Madness. I'm really, really excited. I'm sure. I mean, Chris, you played in it. I'm sure is it not the best time of the year?
It is definitely the best time. And like I said, people can talk about the Super Bowl. It's a one game elimination playoff system. And people can talk about the NBA and they can talk about the college football playoff. The NCAA March Madness, to me, is the best event on the planet. I mean, it's just what it is. It's the most watched. Fans are there. You look at college basketball. I mean, you guys can watch CBS Sports Network or ESPN or Fox and just look at all the highlights when they show the game. Look at the fans that are there. And see, the difference between football and basketball is at the highest level of football, there's only 120 teams. And then the teams that really matter, there's like 50 in football, right? In college basketball, everyone has a chance. That's why they call it March Madness, and it's 358 teams. So it's a different, it's constructed differently than football. And so, and I think it's more of a spectator sport than football. And so that's what makes it fun. So when March Madness comes around, people lose their mind.
Yeah.
And you look at that Tennessee game in Auburn yesterday.
Yeah.
You look at that Arkansas game, even the game I did with Oklahoma, the TCU Texas Tech game. I'm talking about, Michigan State, Purdue, just crazy games. You don't get that in football. You don't get that in football. In one day, you cannot leave your couch and watch big time game. Think about it. Every top 5 team lost yesterday. That's never happened in like 50 years. Never happened. That doesn't happen in football.
Right.
So in basketball, because everyone has a chance in basketball, and that's what people like, and that's why people like college more than the NBA. So it's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. I'm one of them. I'm preferably college over the NBA, no questions asked. Again, top 5 teams. Kentucky lost. That's never happened. Like, we're not going to see that.
Gonzaga lost.
Gonzaga, St. Mary's gave it to them. Now, they've always had trouble playing St. Mary's on the road. I don't know what it is, but I found, I don't know. It's weird.
Here's my thing about Gonzaga, and you didn't put him in your Final Four, right? So, and Keegan, you put him in yours, right?
I put him in my Final Four, correct?
Right. So this is what my animus towards Gonzaga, and I coached at Pepperdine. When I coached at Pepperdine, we were the first team to ever go to the NCAA tournament, get an at-large bid in that league. Like Blake, they had like Fromm and Maxwell back then. That's when they started their dominance. Nevertheless, I've always said I love Gonzaga, but here's my problem with it. You see what happens in the SEC and the AC and the Big East. On the road, you can lose. In their league, they're never going on the road, unless you said before, unless they're going to St. Mary's in that little hot box tight gym. But if that same team was in the SEC or in the ACC or in the Big East or the Big Ten, you think they would win all those games? Because they would be playing true road games. They never play true road games. It's always what they call a neutral site. They always play neutral site. Anytime they play a team, it's neutral site, period. So if they ever played on the road, we would think differently. They got playing in a high school league. I don't want to say high school league. I don't want to disrespect the other guys. But it's like Duke playing in a low-level league. I mean, they're just going to dominate. They got 5-star guys. The other guys got 2-star guys. So who do you think's going to win? And they got a great coach and great tradition. So I don't say I don't have respect for Gonzaga's program, but to me, you see what happened with Butler. Butler leaves the horizon. They go to the Big East. Look what's happening. If the Gonzaga Bulldogs left and went to the Pac-12, trust me, it would not be the same. Yeah, it wouldn't be the same.
I think
that's the truth of the matter. So,
right.
Not to throw shade at them. But.
No, you're right. I think they would contend, but you would be met. Like, you would go to Eugene and lose.
Yes. You
would go to Westwood and lose.
Yes. Yes, because you'd have to go to Westwood and then you'd have to go down the street to USC 2 days later. So, and you could be on a 4-game trip when you leave there and you go to Utah and you go to Colorado. Like, to get it up that many games to win on the road, it's easier to win at home. You know, it's easy when you see Keegan's place right there. He got all the Boston Bruins. He got all the Boston. Let him go to some dude's house in New York, and they got New York Jets, New York Mets. They got the Knicks. He wouldn't feel good. He wouldn't feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
No.
He's gonna drink out of a Yankee cup. He would not feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I
That's
know
what
what you're
it's
saying. But you're absolutely right, because like it's going to be props to any of us if we get even 2 out of these Final Four, right? Because it happens every single year. Upsets happen, and then the next thing you know, like UMBC when they beat Virginia was Middle Tennessee or Central Tennessee that beat Michigan State a few years back. It happens. We know it's going to happen, but the thing is when it's going to happen.
We saw last year with Oral Roberts.
Oh yeah.
That was
Kevin
crazy.
O'Banner and Max Asmus, yeah.
Max Asmus. I like
Yeah.
him. I just say I
Yeah,
like
he's
him.
good.
O'Banner, he's doing a great job at Texas Tech.
He's about your height, Brady. He can give you about 50 though. Scores about 50 a game. It's an unbelievable player.
Yeah, he is. I can't wait for the madness to begin. It's March is in 2 days. Conference tournament time right around the corner. We're going to be in, I feel, for a very, very fun tournament.
We are, but I'll tell you this, guys. The Big East tournament, think about Providence won the Big East. And I don't know if you guys ever been to the Big East tournament, but if you have not, you have to go. It is the best. I don't think it's as big as it was when I was a player, but it's still big. It's huge in Madison Square Garden, especially this year. Even though Providence won the league, Providence had so many close games. It wasn't like they ran away with this thing. You dig where I'm coming from? So I think that this year, I think it's wide open. I'm gonna be honest with you. Marquette swept Villanova. I mean, Villanova I think it's wide open. Honestly, St. John's has been playing well, off and on, but you're playing at their home court, so it's gonna be fun, man.
And especially with Providence, they play on March 1st. The Big East tournament starts March 9th. They have a bye. They're gonna be playing. I believe it's March 10th. That's a 9-day layoff.
Yeah.
That's wide open. And that's the same thing with Nova and UConn. It's wide open. We may see a bid be stolen in MSG. I'm just saying.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know who's going to. So the only person can steal a bid would be Butler, DePaul, who plays people well, but you got to win the whole thing like Georgetown did.
Yeah.
Georgetown, they're toast. Those are the only 3, right? Because they said 7 teams are going to get. How many teams are Big East? 11 or 10? 11, right? Yeah. So Georgetown, Butler, St. John's is probably out in St. John's, Butler, Georgetown, and DePaul. Those 4. Only those 4 could still a bid because I think 7 are firmly in.
I still think St. John's has a great chance.
Really?
They've been up and down, but like you said, it's their home court.
Yeah. Well, they got to get to the championship. I mean, they can't win 1 game, 2 games. If obviously they get the AQ if they win the whole thing. But I mean, like if they get to the championship, depending on how things shake out in every league, and I'm gonna tell you the league that needs to be worried the most is the ACC. Because North Carolina got 1 quad 1 win. Virginia Tech beat Miami. Miami's net is really, really high. So I mean, I don't know. Like ACC could get 2 teams. I was telling them, they could get 2 teams as all said and done. So that may open the door for St. John's, but that means 8 teams from the Big East get in out of 11. Yeah,
doesn't happen.
St. John's got an uphill climb. They got to do some damage.
All right, that is going to conclude the first episode of the Sports Saga podcast. If you haven't already, follow Chris Walker on Instagram at CWalkerSports. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at the Sports Saga podcast. Make sure you like this and subscribe. Next week, a colleague of Chris's, Andrew Catalan, will be joining us on the Sports Saga podcast. For Chris Walker, Keegan Hamlet, I am Brady Kudo, and we will see you next week.